Hello, this is Eugene and Andrea, Dr. Doula and Coach Jean. We're here doing a checkup video for our audiences.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about transitioning. Those that know, we lived in Chicago and we've recently moved. Our kids are...
Here's comfort. You see comfort. That's our home now.
And so we're here to just kind of share our updates together.
Wow, you are so special. I will get you for real. Like for real.
All right, so go. We're together. I was doing too much the last video, so.
The last two. He's been extra the last two. Well, now I gotta start. This is your part.
No, you didn't have to start. I started it. I just had a shorter introduction.
Okay, so Coach, what does transitioning mean? What do you mean when you say transition?
Transition. What I mean is that we are moving from one phase of our lives to another phase. Like we move from parenting to empty nesters. And so we're able to go back and look at some of the choices that we've made in the past. And it's almost like we're getting a second opportunity to do things differently. And it's actually a wonderful feeling. It has been very difficult.
I was about to say wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it is a wonderful feeling when you wake up
pass
and
through it. Yeah, but
mature,
not at the
and
time.
You're maturing. Yeah. So yeah, it has been very difficult facing the music of decisions that you've made and reckoning and being true to yourself, being true to one another, and being strong enough to stand in the face of truth and to realize that no one has the answer for you. The answer is not going to come from an outward source. You may have people or therapists or friends, they'll point you in direction, but you have to take personal responsibilities for the decisions that you've made, the meanings that you're holding to certain events that have happened. But at the end of the day, you have to come to grips and own your decisions, own the things that you have allowed, and even if you didn't allow them, they've happened. So how are you going to come at life and make lemonade with the lemons that were served to you? So,
and I think I love that you mentioned something that just slipped my mind because I was looking at my nails. But I really appreciate you mentioning like the meaning that we've given stuff. There are meanings that we've given things, and you know, when you give a meaning to something, we've been together 32 years, been married. Wait, we've known each other 32 years. We've been technically together 31 years and then married 30. So, whatever. But the meaning that I had for a certain thing when I was 20, well, I met him at 19. When I was 19 years old, it's not the same meaning that something holds now. But it is very easy to get stuck in that meaning. It's the meaning. It's the reason why I don't like when people say same thing it took for you to get them, same thing it takes for you to keep them. So
it's got another ring to it.
It does.
It used to sound good.
It did, didn't it?
10 years ago, 20 years ago.
20 years ago,
good.
Sure, but now you're 51.
Nah,
I'm 51, he's 53, and I'm like, hold on.
And she don't want me to do the same thing.
Gosh, like I get what they're saying, but to me, like unless you're gonna go to a deeper place where you're gonna say, right, okay, look, if you know, baby qualities or something. Go ahead.
Nah, yeah. What I was thinking is that work. It does take work.
Yeah.
But like we've heard someone share on the video that my wife shared with me recently is that when you become a master, when you leave out of apprenticeship into journeyman and journeyman into master, then you're looking beyond work, right? It's beyond working hard. Now you're at a place where you're energetically looking at not only how you're affecting yourself, but how you're affecting others. And you're actually looking in between the lines.
Yes.
Right? And you can't work toward that.
That's the age, that's the wisdom, that's the experience, that's the exposure, that's living, that's like all stuff you can't just get.
It's like being a meteorologist, right? You learn how to read all the science equipment. But then when you become like Booker T or George Washington Carver, and you know those people who were making almanacs, not that they made it, but you know other scientists who were actually making almanacs, you know, you have to go beyond the technology and move into your senses, move into, you know, seeing the ecology of the land, the ecology of the animals, the skies,
and what you've seen before. And what it signaled that maybe nobody thought of before, but it's like, wow, I've seen this before.
And then energetically hear from your ancestors or from your higher self to say, hey, I interpret or I see or I sense. See, and that's beyond just working hard. That's using, you know, what maybe some people call a sixth sense. And so that's what I call heart knowledge. That's moving beyond, you know, the state of working with your head and your hands and moving into mastership and working with your heart.
Yeah. And I like your point that you're making there. It's like all of that is what comes with age. Like there's certain things that nobody could have told me that I would be thinking about or feeling or anything like that at this point in my life. You could not have convinced me. Just like when I got married or before I got married and before I had children, no one could have told me that I would be motivated to homeschool 4 little boys for 13 years. That I would allow myself to be confined to a home. And it's like, this is for 13 years, I'm going to do this thing. But I did, and it was what I felt led and called to do. And so there's a wisdom that comes with that experience. There are insights that come with those experiences and seeing what that is. And so the transitions that my husband is talking about, they're really something, because I was looking at actually our marriage sky signature, the chart. I was, you know, I'm always trying to see what's going on with us. Oh, I gotta remember. Okay, I gotta remember. I was looking at the chart, and I was looking at a specific thing that basically was saying, you know, for our 30th year, it was like, do it over again. It basically was like, start over. And that's exactly what it feels like. There are things that happen, and I've been telling my husband for a while, I'm like, why is this, we've done this already. And it's like, okay, now do it again and do it right. Not that there's right and wrong, but you saw how it served you. There are things that I did for 30 years, for 20 years of our marriage, that I get to see the end of now. I get to tell you where it ends up, because I decided to take a 20, 30-year experiment and say, well, what if I do this like this? And then I got to see how the end of it looked. And I'm at the end of it now, sometimes having regrets that I've never had in my life. Like, you know, like, wow. Like one of them, I'll share. When we first got together, I made more money than my husband. And then I came home and, well, I was making a little more than him. And then for the rest of our marriage, after like 3 years, he was just the sole provider, and I would do like freelance work. I did different work on the side, but we never really used my money to support the household. It would be what he did, because I was homeschooling, because I was doing other things, taking care of the household in a specific way. You know, I was manning the fort. Okay. That's the way I was manning the fort, making sure that those boys, you know, that we were raising in the Chicagoland area, that we could keep as much eyes on them as possible, that there was somebody accessible to them, because he was working like an hour and stuff away most of the time. So we just wanted there to be somebody that was around, right? And one of the things, I had a recent revelation, and one of them, for example, was my husband has always been very generous. Like I've never asked him for something. He's like, well, why do you want that money? You know, whatever. Oh, I could have sworn I saw a mosquito. It was like, if I asked, he's like, okay, sure. And so whether it's trips or whatever, like I'll be like, I need this amount, and it can be a lot. Yep, he got me. And he would be like, okay, I'll send it to you, whatever. But what I realized the other day, or like a week or so ago, I had this revelation. And I said, wow, what if I had said, hey, we've gone from making, I think our starting was like 30,000, and I made 33,000 when we first got married. Like, and whatever, to 6 figures. So he was making 6 figures by the time he resigned from that work and we transitioned, this transition. And it occurred to me, you never asked, he got promoted, but you never asked for, hey, I like to have this amount every paycheck or every month. I'd like you to deposit this amount to me. I never did it. Never did it. Never did it. Now somebody would say, oh, well, shouldn't he thought about it? Look, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. And I was asking myself, why wouldn't you think of that? Because the whole thought of saying, what if I just say, hey, can you give me this amount? And then I have that to put and do what I want, whether it's save or spend or whatever. Even to pay some of these trips that I ended up going and saying, hey, babe, can you give me money for this? And I had a big regret. I was like, wow, I never transitioned from our days of very little. I won't say poverty, but from very little, I never transitioned to something more.
I wouldn't say very little, and I like to look at that because it's like I like what we're saying now,
Okay.
Seed time and harvest time. It was during the seed time.
Okay, I'll take it.
And it's different, like when we're in the harvest time. So during our seed time, that's when we spent most of our time planning for the future. And then harvest is all of those seeds that we're planting. So no, we're never in poverty.
I didn't say poverty.
Oh, no. I know you're saying, so even in lack, but I'm learning all this from you. You're helping me reframe my perspective, but I like that seed time and harvest time.
I was just saying.
So there was like, even in we thought it was meager, but it was just.
Can I say during our building period?
Yes,
can I say building or
seed
something?
Time. Yep.
That doesn't relate to what I'm trying to say. I feel like it dulls and like kind of neuters out what I'm saying. I'm saying we were building at the time a specific thing, and we were navigating what we were working with. And so the seed time, yes,
seed.
That's fine, but that's not relating what I'm trying to relate right now.
Sounds
what I'm
good.
trying to say is that it was a different season, and it was a building time, and that when the harvest came forward, I didn't go harvest anything. So if we're gonna do seed and harvest, so
Understood.
I didn't go harvest. Is that word? Okay. So after all the time, decades, I didn't go and say, hey, where's my harvest? Now that feels like what I'm saying. Okay. I planted seeds that I didn't go harvest. And so that was a thing that I was dealing with a lot of regret about. I was really like, wow, how, and I never really looked to blame my husband. It's just not a practice I have, because nobody can treat you or do anything or not do anything unless that's a part of the thing that you're cooperating with. Now, I know that there are violations of things, but I'm talking about this stuff that we're choosing to do every day. There are plenty of things that we're choosing to do every day, and we're blaming other people for our state of being, and it's not on him, it's on me. If I look up and say, I never got a chance to express myself, he never let me. Okay, what are you talking about? Did you open your mouth and did you speak? A lot of times we're wanting a certain response. And so if someone says, you be quiet, we say they won't let us speak, but we're making decisions not to speak, because in that moment it's like, well, I want their approval, or I want to feel safe. I want to feel whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just making that point of when you miss your transition, when you miss your harvest time after you've planted, to go with his analogy of planting your seeds, allowing time, and then harvesting. When you miss that, don't look and say, hey, well, when you were out there, why didn't you bring me mine in? Don't do that. Just say, wow, I didn't. Wow. And when you do it that way, then even if it hurts a bit to kind of acknowledge, you're positioning yourself so that you can do something different.
I like that because it sounds like as you're making an effort to make sure that on the next go around or whatever season it is to be intentional.
Yeah.
Setting attention to being assertive, not only just assertive, but being receptive too. So, because we're talking about balance, because it's not, it's not all about getting yours, but it's also
it's
giving,
respecting the balance. It's respecting
the balance,
the exchange.
Exactly.
And so I can't be mad at him because I didn't
take.
expect the exchange. Because I was telling somebody, they said, "Well, why didn't you transition? Why didn't you?" And the only thing I had that came up was
we weren't respecting ourselves.
For me, I was just, that's the general statement. I wasn't respecting myself. And at a deeper level, I was wanting to be the good wife. I had roughed it out with him and had done with so little.
And then you ask yourself, okay, what is a good wife?
Then what is a good wife?
What is a good husband?
Exactly. Like I wanted to be like, oh, my wife doesn't, she's so easy to deal with, whatever. And I was like, well, if I ask him to bring me this amount of money every, check he get, maybe he'll see it differently, or maybe he'll be like, oh, you gonna buy groceries from this too? We never had those kind of discussions, but in my mind I was like, well, I'll just leave it like it is. I don't know. Maybe that's gonna be, more than what we want to deal with. You want to call him back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so,
that's a good talk.
What?
As it relates to you taking responsibility,
Personal.
ownership
Yes.
over the things that you may have regretted, to choose to do something different on this side.
And that, even in itself, the transition of that is challenging.
So
because
that means
some of
that
those,
on this side, when God started blessing her,
he has already,
and
God
she
has
started moving, then that means I'm going to be asking, hey,
guess who ain't gonna have no problem?
I'm going to be asking for payment.
Guess who don't have no problem getting what he want? Guess who don't have no problem asking?
My Venus is strong. But no, I just to take a serious note from that is something that we can learn, because it's about the give and take. It's about the balance. It's about, understanding the yin and yang, because the reason why I like that is because I know the kind of person you are with resources and with money. You put up stuff in the storehouse so that we wouldn't lack. You didn't use things selfishly just for yourself. You would have took most of that up and put it up for a rainy day, And it's not me to get on this side and say, hey, you didn't ask, but I'm going to ask, and then spend on myself selfishly. And that's why I always like to take lessons from what I call the Joseph effect. Joseph, when he had approached Pharaoh and told him about the 7 years of famine and then the 7 years of plenty, to that when the 7 years of famine came around, to store up taxes in the storehouse, so that when during the 7 years of plenty, so that when famine came around, you were living normal. And I think a lot of times we have these areas of lack, or these destitute, dry areas that we walk through in our lives, whether it's emotionally or mentally or physically. Because when we had plenty, when we had our health and we had our strength and we had our mobility and all that, we didn't think about how to store up for the future. We just go, and we forget how to feel, and we desensitize ourselves in staying harmonious, or, like I like to say, allowing the body to reach the state of homeostasis. We just all yang and not understanding how to be yin, how to actually give attention to our inward parts. And we lack that ability to feel inward and feel what's necessary, because we just got to get the prize. And so on this transition, we're both going to be now the beautiful thing is that it's going to look different for both of us. And so are we going to be able to tune in, and which I know we are, tuning in to what yang and yin looks to us in our individual lives, so that when we come together collectively, it works. Thank you.
Anyway, so
Thank you for the kiss.
I did want to make sure before we go, we talk about, like, I heard someone talking about equally yoked today. And they were coming from a perspective that their grandfather had told them. I've heard about being equally yoked my whole life, growing up in the church. But I never had a full understanding. I just thought it symbolically. But she said that her grandfather said, talked to her about the boys she was wanting to date, and saying, you need to be equally yoked. If you have one stronger and one weaker animal, a horse or oxen or whatever, then you go in circles, because that one is like moving out and the other one is, they're not level with you. And so it's like one is stronger in one direction, like to move out and more, and then the other one is kind of lagging. And so all that assertion is great, but you end up going in a circle. You're not going anywhere. You're not getting anything done. Okay. And it's true. It's true. It's like you're pulling that other horse or oxen with centrifugal force, because you're just like pull, and you're dragging the whole way. And then she said, well, what happens if you have two strong ones, but they're strong in their own ways, and they're not getting along. Like they don't flow together. And she said, then they just end up pulling away. It's like you still don't go anywhere, because this one wants to go, no, this way. It's like everybody has their own mind about things. And she said, well, she said, well, how will I ever find anybody? And she said, you find someone that's strong as you are. So you're going for the strength of both. And you've agreed to do the same, to go the same direction, to work toward the same objectives. And I love that, because I never understood being equally yoked in that way. I never understood it meaning that. I just thought it was like, don't give it to anybody, don't believe what you believe. But it's so much more. And we walk through all of that, whether it's, the one oxen is saying, go, and the other one's like, or if it's just butting heads and say, I don't want to, no, this way, going opposite directions. But our commitment to what we have built and what we are building is stronger. And so in this time where we have seen the world in different ways, we have, in this time where we can say a whole lot of different things, and, we've switched occupations, done all kinds of things. We're realigning ourselves first to our highest selves. And the belief, the way I look at it, is that when I'm in my highest self, when I'm flowing and attuned to my highest self, when I'm in that space, then I meet him there. If he's in his highest and whatever. And that, I don't know how that sounds to people. It's more than just, my relationship with God is what it is, and this feels right to me. It's like, if I'm really walking in love, I know I meet him there. If I'm really, walking with the mind, the highest mind, the mind of God in my life, then I know that my thoughts toward him are not going to be foul and not going to be negative. That I'll be able to communicate myself things that I maybe need to communicate, and it be done in love. And my belief is that because that intention is there, that he will receive it and feel it. So I just wanted to say that the whole equally yoked thing, that was pretty cool for me today.
Yeah, you did a good job explaining it.
Did I? Okay, good. Got anything else?
No, I think that was beautiful.
Okay, cool. Get that out? We have discussed this. Thank you. Bye.